Hey there, listeners. This is Carrie.
And Mackenzie.
Before today's episode, we want to remind you that the content in this episode is not intended as medical advice, diagnosis, or treatment.
The use of the information on today's podcast is at the user's own risk. Listeners should contact their doctor or other qualified medical providers for medical advice.
Now roll the intro. Thanks for listening. Please enjoy.
I think it's better. I'm not, because I was really hacking it up before. I'm recording right now. But I was...
You're disgusting.
I'm way less flummy than I was. You don't think so? I think so.
Okay. Last night my dad's bestie called him, and his name is Jerry. So then, somehow, you'll love this. Every time Jerry just drops out, in the call, like he walks somewhere in his house.
Yeah.
My dad is on the other end going, Jerry, Jerry, are you there?
So dramatic.
So dramatic. And yelling for him like he's lost him at sea and is bellowing out to the waves. And
I really only hope one day that it's like that between me and you.
It will be.
In our old age.
In our dotage.
Not that we're already there, but I mean.
I feel like I'm 90.
I do. I feel like I'm in my old lady era.
I'm totally fine with it. I don't remember my one grandmother. She was 39 until she turned 80, and then she was all proud of having made it to 80, while denying every other age in between.
Right.
But, they didn't talk about just kind of embracing those weird little things that happen when you get older. Mm-hmm. And I'm just enjoying every minute of it.
Yeah. Well, I'm just waiting for the pendulum to swing the other way. I'm, again, in my old lady era now, and then down the road, I'll be back in my carefree young girl heart. No, my body won't be feeling the same way.
Too much has happened. I'm sorry.
I have too much emotional baggage to be that way.
I'm just saying, as a country, and just I don't see those. I see a lot of Gen X content online, mm-hmm. and a lot of it is our lives were so carefree. Mm-hmm. We didn't have phones. We're kind of the last generation to not.
Yeah.
Be tracked and not be tracked. And you would just, your parents say, go outside, don't come back till dinner.
Right.
Till dinner. So you would play with, your friends on the street, mm-hmm. roller skating, avoiding traffic.
Different times. It's the yin and the yang of it. It's the good and the bad that as we progress as a society in one way, we're going to lose other parts, and it's
sometimes it feels like in order to advance, we give up the most precious little part of our society.
That's one way to look at it.
It sure is, and it's depressing. Woohoo!
Right.
Do we have anything to apologize for from the last podcast?
I don't think so, but, in case we do, let's just issue a blanket apology.
For everything we've done, everything we're about to do, and everything we will do in the future.
Everything offensive in between.
Yes.
All the cracks.
Every last one. Every last roll. Every last everything.
Gotta get those in-between spaces. But yeah, it's... I haven't had any complaints. I haven't had anyone call us out for anything, either personally, people who have said anything to me, or on the interwebs, on our socials. I haven't seen anything. We haven't gotten any nasty emails yet.
Have we gotten any good ones?
No, we did.
You had fan mail from my friend Elizabeth.
Yes, we talked about that one. And then I told you in a text message about, I'll shout her out, Tiffany, who's one of my former colleagues. I don't work with her anymore, but still appreciate her work. And, she definitely said she liked the podcast. She liked what we're doing. She definitely, at least in her messages, said that it's refreshing to have a non-clinical perspective and then a clinical perspective, and just our conversations about that. And she appreciated where we come at things and how our conversation, which is great. And she didn't say it too much to make our egos get, balloons. So
I think I was born with a very healthy dose of low self-esteem. So I'm fine
so
either way. So
nothing anyone could say could inflate
it's not going to excite me too much. I'm not going to suddenly think, my God, I'm amazing.
Right.
My first question is always, what did I do wrong? Or, it wasn't me. Okay.
Okay.
So what movie are we watching, Kenzie?
What movie?
Oh, what did we watch?
Let's restart.
Let's restart that because obviously I don't know what I'm doing. Okay.
It's not like we're 6 episodes in or anything.
Yeah. So, what movie? Oh my God. Okay. Kenzie.
Carrie.
What movie did we watch this week?
We watched Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind. It came out in 2004. It was directed by Michael or Michelle.
It's Michelle.
Is it Michelle?
That is how I just was watching that little behind the scenes thing when you came in.
I should have prepped like you did. But yeah, so Michelle Gondry. Is that how he says his last name? And it's got a lot of great actors in it. So the 2 headlining actors who really the story is about them majority of the time is Jim Carrey. He plays Joel Barish. And then you have got Kate Winslet playing Clementine Kruczynski. Now, is it similar to your last name? Is it pronounced the same?
It is.
Okay. It's spelled different, though.
Years ago, when I was doing just some research, family history research for my husband, that's his last name, and when they first immigrated on the boat, it was spelled with a Z and a Y.
Okay.
Whereas now they've taken, at least for us, that's taken out.
Yeah. Well, and it's spelled with the Z and the Y with the list of cast, like it would be in the screenplay. So you found your kin in this story.
Not my kin.
Your husband's kin.
Yep.
And what a kin to have, Clementine. The other main characters that we see throughout the movie we see Mark Ruffalo, who plays Stan.
I almost didn't recognize him at first. I'm like, wait,
really?
Is that Mark Ruffalo?
I feel like he has a very distinctive face, though.
But he had those glasses on that kind of hid his eyes. Like he has that certain squint about his eyes.
Yes, but was it the Superman effect? It was like he got Clark Kent, Superman, he had the glasses on.
Well, between that and his very big hair that was spiked out.
Yes, it was voluminous.
A lot of product.
Yeah.
Don't light a fire next to him.
No. And then Elijah Wood played Patrick. And I forgot he was in this movie when I was rewatching it. I was like, oh yeah. And he's in like the opening scene. He's in the very beginning, but yeah.
Yeah, I remembered he was in it. I didn't remember Mark Ruffalo was in it. But I have always liked Elijah Wood as an actor, and I was disappointed he wasn't in it more, but he ended up being a humongous human red flag.
Walking red flag. We're gonna get into that. I can't even with his character. And then the other 2 characters that we see a lot are Kirsten Dunst, and she plays Mary, and then Tom Wilkerson, R.I.P. Tom Wilkerson. He plays Howard, who's the doctor. So I mean, there's some other characters in the movie that are like support characters, not very prominent. Before we kind of get into the synopsis / plot lines of the movie, it was nominated for a bunch of awards, and then specifically with the Academy Awards, Kate Winslet was a nominee for performance by an actress in a leading role. So it was one of her. Did you know that?
I didn't, and I'm surprised because it doesn't seem like an Oscar worthy, like a typical Oscar nominee.
Yeah, maybe. I think she did really well, but she didn't win it. She didn't win the Oscar, so maybe that's why it's not coming to your mind. Because she won for Revolutionary Road, and she won another Oscar.
Do you remember reading that in our book club?
Yeah.
Back in the day
I
at
know.
the coffee house?
Yep. I liked that book.
I have yet to watch the movie because the book...
It's so traumatizing and triggering.
It's just like, well, it's bad enough I read it and I imagined the whole thing. I don't need to see how it actually... played out.
I know. I can't remember with the book club, if I read the book first and then watched the movie, or if I watched the movie before I read the book. We picked it because the movie had come out. I know. I feel like I saw them both around the same time. I can't remember, but the movie is good, but it's intense. I mean, it's an intense drama. It's an intense book, so I would recommend it if you're in the frame of mind to consume that kind of
that's
material.
Leonardo DiCaprio and Kate Winslet. So a little repairing from... Apparently, they can only be in tragic movies together.
Yeah, that's all they're suited for with them. And we're going to talk more about Kate Winslet's performance as Clementine, but this is more of a comedy, I would say, for her. It's like a what's that
Dramedy?
word? Dramedy, yeah.
And I don't know if you felt this, but there were moments in the movie where I felt so off kilter and so confused about, wait. But then I had started asking my questions, like questions to myself.
Yeah.
As things were happening, like, wait, we just saw him look at that, look at his car and not know how he got the scratch.
Right.
And then you find out how he got the scratch. It was Clementine. So
Right.
then I'm like, well, that doesn't make any sense.
I know. Like, the rest of the movie makes the beginning make sense,
Honestly, to be able to achieve that in a movie, to make your audience feel as confused and like off balance as the characters is always fantastic.
Oh, yeah. I'm a huge fan of this movie, and I fell in love as even the story goes. Like this, I fell in love with the movie again, watching it a second time.
When I watched it the first time, it was with a group of people, and I think there was a lot of talking between us. So when I watched it the first time, I was like, whatever. But I'm glad I watched it a second time.
Yeah.
With my husband. But,
but you could appreciate it more this time. The movie did win the Academy Award for Best Writing and Best Screenplay, original screenplay.
So not based on a book.
No, it was an original screenplay by Charlie Kaufman, and then the director, Michel, and Pierre Bismuth, they also contributed to the story. But I guess he's credited as being the lead author, Charlie Kaufman. Do you want me to go ahead and start getting into the...
Yeah.
Okay.
Well...
Anything you want to say first?
Hello, and welcome to the Much Madness podcast.
We never introduced it, but yeah. I'm Mackenzie.
I'm Carrie.
And this is Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind. The story starts off with us meeting Joel. He wakes up. It's morning time, and he's like kind of getting ready for work. And we... Oh, go ahead. No, go ahead.
I loved the first line was, I woke up in a... And I'm thinking, if I had $1 for every time I could say that to someone.
I forgot he's narrating at the beginning. So, so he's... In the first 10 minutes of the movie, which is before we even get to, like, the name of the movie and the credits and things like that.
It was a long time for those credits.
It was, yeah. We meet Joel and he's narrating, and we see him get ready for work, and he's waiting. Well, like Carrie was saying with his car, like he gets to his car because he's going to drive somewhere. We don't know where he's going quite yet, but then he sees that his car's been damaged, and you can tell he's like obviously pissed off by it, but doesn't know like what happened.
And he's looking at the car next to him,
but it doesn't match the paint that's on his car.
But he still writes them a note that says, "Thank you."
Yeah. Rude.
What? Like, if they weren't the ones who hit him and they didn't notice that you would just be like, what the hell is happening?
I don't know if it's because he's in a funk maybe and he's not like fully processing it, but like it's very obvious there's paint scratched on the side of his car, and it's like a yellow or an orange or something, and the car next to him is green. And he's got like a tan or silver, I don't know, car. Yeah. But anyway, he drives his car to the train station, and he's waiting for his train. He's got his briefcase. He's going to go to work. And he says, basically he's narrating over that he decided to go to Montauk, and he's not, and he wants the audience to know I'm not an impulsive guy.
Obviously, by his demeanor. But, and it's winter. Mm-hmm. Nobody's going to go to Montauk, I don't think, in the dead of winter. Mm-mm. In the bleak midwinter.
Yeah. I've never been to Montauk. I've watched a couple different, like, TV shows and movies that, like, feature Montauk, but it sounds beautiful. It sounds like, I think it's either right next to Cape Cod or it's, like, in the same general vicinity.
It might even, I don't know.
I say that without having a map, right?
The Hamptons, I think, are nearby.
Oh, okay.
Because I watched a documentary, and it had Jackie Kennedy's sister, Lee Radziwill. Mm-hmm. And she was in Montauk with her friends, and they just decided to videotape what was happening. Mm-hmm. And she was there with Truman Capote and Andy Warhol and an artist whose name I can't remember, and then the Maleses, who filmed Grey Gardens with her cousin and aunt. So anyway, the documentary is them staying in Montauk and then going to the Hamptons to visit Big and Little Edie Beale. Mm-hmm. And that was the first time Lee and Jackie tried to clean up the house. And then the Maleses came back later and filmed the documentary a couple years later.
I completely forgot about Grey Gardens until you just mentioned it now.
I love that documentary. I don't know why. Because, I don't know if that's something that most people... I'm bored. I think I'm going to watch Grey Gardens.
I don't know if I've seen the whole thing through, though. I'm recalling memories, which we'll talk about here in a little bit, of having, like, watched scenes from it, but I don't think I've sat through and watched the whole thing.
Well, on HBO, I think it is, Drew Barrymore and Jessica Lange did a movie based on their early life, the Beals' early life. So it's Little Edie and Big Edie, and it's when their dad was still there, or the father figure was still there, and they had money, and the house was gorgeous.
The area is a really beautiful area and wealthy. Yeah, to your point, it's very wealthy.
So we will never vacation there.
I probably can't afford it.
I don't even think I could afford to drive through. What if I get hungry? Can't afford anything.
Yeah. I don't know, Carrie. Let's not rule it out. Never say never.
Never.
While Joel is on his impulsive trip to Montauk, he sees a woman, on the train, like, keeps looking at her, and she keeps looking at him, and he's, like, intrigued by her, right? And then he goes to Montauk by himself. He's, like, walking around, and, like, doing all these things, and, he's narrating. I can't remember exactly what he's saying, but basically he's just, like, it feels weird. He's feeling weird. Like, he's feeling like, what is this, It was, like you were saying, kind of like in the wintertime to go to Montauk to walk on the beach and, like, just be there. It's strange. But then on the way back, on the train back into town, which we don't know where they live, but it's a cityscape. That's just where the majority of the movie takes place, is there. He starts talking to this woman on the train, and her name is Clementine. She basically says, in true Clementine fashion, Kate Winslet, her character, kind of says hi to him because he's, like, been looking at her or whatever. Like, kind of, like, calls him out on, like, hey, I know that you're, watching me or whatever. And she tries to strike up a conversation with him.
And they have a cute type of little chemistry. Even though Jim Carrey has Joel. At the beginning of the movie... You don't quite know the ride you're about to go on.
No.
Or why this scene feels like they already know each other.
They're super familiar. Even though there's an awkwardness mostly on Joel's part, although Clementine shows some vulnerability too, where, he's saying, like, he's just trying to be nice to her, and she's like, well, I don't want nice. Like, I don't, She has a very strong reaction to him for someone who she... supposedly has just met, right? Like, that's the assumption by the audience. That's our knowledge to this point, is like, this is their meet cute. This is how they meet on this train. From there, they go back. Joel drives Clementine back to her place that night, right? Like,
and she says, I loved it. She's asleep in his car, and she goes, ugh, I'm too tired. Can I sleep over? And then she goes in the house and gets all her stuff.
I know. I'll just be a minute.
Yeah.
Isn't that, though, after they've been out on the ice?
Oh, yeah, it is.
Because he drops her off. Because after they leave the train, he sees her walking. It's cold. And he's like, I can take you to where you got to go. So he takes her home. She invites him in. He comes in, right? But it's, like, awkward, right? Like, something's going on where, like, they're trying to, like, get to know each other. And Joel... Like, it seems like Joel's just, like, overwhelmed by her, like, in this scene in her apartment. And he's like, I gotta go. And she's like, it would be nice if you called me. So, like, she writes her phone number down on his hand. And then when he gets home, he calls her.
And she answers with,
what did
you
she
miss
say?
me?
Oh, yeah.
And she told him, when you call, wish me happy Valentine's Day.
Yeah, because it is Valentine's Day. When they're out on, both of them are on the train to Montauk and things like that. And then it's the next day that they plan to meet up again because she wants to take him on the Charles River because it's frozen. So they're out on the river, the frozen river at night. And then I don't know if they fell asleep on the ice or something, but we're in the car and she's asleep in the car. He's driving and it's daylight though. I don't know.
Yeah, I think that, she said it was going to be a midnight picnic.
Oh, yeah.
But I will say that I would be exactly like Joel and be like, I'm not going out on that ice. What's wrong with you?
Yeah, but he did, though. She convinced him. He was hesitant, though. I don't know. You just hear stories, man. Like, it's, especially with climate change now, because you have to remember, like, this movie came out in 2004. A lot of stuff has changed.
The world was a different place.
I mean, who knows, at least in our neck of the woods, like, I mean, you don't have anything that's frozen like that. You shouldn't trust it. You can't be completely convinced and confident that that ice is completely frozen. You won't fall in, but.
Yeah.
Okay, so this is where it starts to get weird. Okay, so as Carrie said, Joel pulls up to her place to drop her off after this midnight picnic that they had, and she wants to sleep at his place, even though she obviously could sleep at hers. Like, Joel has taken her there, and then she goes in to grab all her stuff, and then Elijah Wood's character Patrick knocks on his door, his window of his car, and is like, "What are you doing here?" And Jim Carrey's like, I don't understand the question. What? Like, what? Why are you asking?
Yeah.
And then Patrick goes like, oh, he gets it.
And then just walks off.
And walks away. And we find out later why Patrick was both confused and then also understood. Yeah.
Yeah, it was a weird confrontation because Joel is just, parked, just waiting.
For Clementine, yeah.
Like, he's not, at first I'm like, is he blocking, like, a driveway?
Right. Mm-hmm.
But no.
And then there's the opening sequence. Like, you see, like, more images and scenes of Joel, and he's obviously very sad. Like, he goes from this happy moment of being with Clementine, and then you see all these kind of scenes of him being sad and crying and, like, kind of depressed. Mm-hmm. And then we find out that Clementine and him have broken up. He wants to get back together with her.
Yeah, and he also says, like, during that opening sequence and titles and everything, he's walking around and he's being followed by someone in a van. Oh, yeah. So he keeps seeing, like, kind of in his periphery, the same van following him.
Mm-hmm. I forgot about that in the very beginning, yeah. Which just kind of puts him on edge and things like that, too.
Yeah. It really had me saying, is there anyone in this movie who's a reliable narrator? I just need to know now.
No.
Nope.
No, not completely. And that's kind of the fun of it, too, that leaves you guessing. But, so after we find out that Joel has been broken up by Clementine and he wants to get back together with her, his friends, let me look up their names really quick.
Carrie and Mark, I think.
Is that what their names are?
I think so.
Carrie, you're right, spelled the exact same way as you. And Rob. Not Mark, Carrie and Rob.
I wonder who Mark is. Why did I come up with his name?
It was probably just Mark Ruffalo. Maybe that was on your brain.
Some weird memory.
And Jim Carrey, Joel is talking with them because he's, like, trying to strategize with them, like, how to get back together with her. We found out that it's a few days before Valentine's Day, but we don't know the year. So, like, the audience is assuming that there's been some time that has passed since the opening scene to, like, now, which is we think that this is the present. And he's talking with Rob and Carrie about, like, how he can get her back. They're like, we didn't want to tell you about this. And they pull out a piece of paper and they show him that there was a notification by a company called Lacuna that Joel's, Jim Carrey's character has been erased from the memory of Clementine and that he's to have no contact with her.
And they are not to bring her name up around him.
Right.
And vice versa.
Right. And so Joel is, like, way upset about this. I think that scene right there where he's talking to Rob and Carrie, I think it's after Joel had unsuccessfully tried to talk to Clementine at the bookstore that she worked.
Yeah, because he said he had taken her a necklace, and he goes to Barnes & Noble, and he goes up to her at the desk, but there's someone that we don't see, but there's a man that is obviously her boyfriend or someone she's dating who comes in and she just, like, doesn't know who Jim Carrey is.
Right.
Or Joel. Doesn't know who Joel is whatsoever.
Right.
And so he goes to Rob and Carrie's and he's like, she's changed her number. I went to work to the bookstore and she's with another guy, and I don't know what's happening. She acts like she doesn't know who I am.
Right. And that's when, like, the bomb gets dropped that, like, she's not going to know who you are because she erased you. Which, talk about, like, how, like, cool and, like, utterly terrifying it would be if you could, like, really do that.
Yeah.
It would solve a lot of problems, but then it
would cause problems as well.
Well, we're going to get into that because it obviously does.
Yeah. Well, speaking of memories, like, how are memories collected and stored in our brains? Like, what is that whole process of memory?
Okay, so I'm going to try to explain this in like a general, like more succinct way, but if you're interested in it, it's definitely worth researching and looking up because one, the brain is fascinating. It's one of the reasons why we're having this podcast anyway. And two, memory in general, or I guess I should say more specifically with the brain, it is super interesting to learn about. But basically, the brain has a lot of different neurons that are responsible for different activities in the brain. And they're kind of like they're always working. Okay, so it's like, even when we're sleeping, we go into sleep mode, whatever, brain's still working, okay? Maybe it's not at full capacity, but it's still working. There's things still going on. With the different activities, different functions, there's certain neurons that are for thoughts and perceptions, and they'll drift in and out of, being activated or not, things like that. When somebody has a memory, it's a reactivation of a specific group of neurons that are formed from persistent changes in the strength of connections between the neurons. What allows these neurons to be reactivated is synaptic plasticity. So their synapses, it's a part of a neuron. It's where there's communication that happens between neurons, between other parts of the brain. And so plasticity just means that the synapses are able to receive information, they're able to kind of respond. We get really concerned when we're looking at brain health if you lose plasticity, which that's stuff that we can see on brain imaging. It's changes in the brain that can indicate that there's not as much plasticity. And, and in a way, like brain death is when there's like no plasticity. Yeah, so that's one way of looking at it. And then the connections between the brain cells are made stronger or weaker depending on how often and when they're reactivated. So if you think about just the phrase like muscle memory, the muscle being the brain, like you're going to remember things that you do repeatedly over and over. They'll become like autopilot, that stuff. When you have something that you're doing a lot of, it's an active connection, it can get stronger to the point of being like autopilot. And then memories can become weaker if they're not activated, like if they're not recalled, I guess you could say.
Is that why when people have dementia or Alzheimer's that they remember like their childhoods and more recent information that maybe they haven't had to remember time and time again? Or how you have family stories that are told at every single family function that are the same? Is that why that happens?
Yeah, I think that's part of it. I'm not... Dementia, Alzheimer's, all that kind of stuff is definitely not my area of expertise if I were to say I had one. But again, an area that I'm still learning about. But yes, I would say that is much having to do with the whole process of short-term memory. You haven't had to recall as often. So it's not as strong of a connection. It can be easily lost. Whereas the long-term memory, which is what we see go last when we're looking at dementia and Alzheimer's, especially depending on how long ago the memory was, you've recalled it probably several times.
Can I ask another stupid question?
There are no stupid questions.
Only stupid people.
I did not say anything. Yes, what is your question?
You gave me the stupid person look, like, oh, sweetie. Yeah, go ahead. You can ask your little question.
You saw it, damn it.
So, and this is probably stupid, I'm just nosy. A lot of times when you dream, there will be things that show up that have happened in the past or like similar people. Are the neurons and everything that make memory, are those related into kind of what we dream, or?
In a way, yes, because the way that memories get stored long term and that the brain kind of consolidates the information that it has is because of sleep. The brain has to go into like that sleep mode in order for the information to be stored properly. because it could be stored improperly to the point where, like, again, it's not going to be able to be recalled. But yeah, that is why sleep is so important. And it's why, like, if you have issues with insomnia, you're going to end up having down the road cognitive issues, probably with memory, being one of those cognitive issues. But what happens during sleep is the hippocampus and the neocortex kind of speak to one another. There's a choreographed, again, because the brain, by our genes, it's programmed to do certain things, right? So, like, if you have a healthy brain without, like, any genetic, variations and things like that would prohibit it from working the way it's supposed to. But there's a, like, choreographed dialogue that happens between the hippocampus and that neocortex that will relay the recent events so that it can then be stored for the long-term memory. And there's, like, a whole process of that. Like, I don't know enough about it to explain it beyond that, but do your research, folks, if you're very interested. Okay. So
I'm just going to ask you.
Me?
Yeah, I don't need to research because I have you.
Yeah, I will research anything you want, Carrie. If I can find the answer. We might not ever be able to find our answers to our questions, but
I mean, I guess it's just...
I'll try real hard for you.
I'm going to try to think up really difficult...
Please don't. You're
just, like, really interesting, weird, twisty questions every week.
God. That's some kind of form of torture right there. Like, please don't, because I don't want to seem like I'm a complete dunce, but I also don't want to overpromise on things that I can't do.
You're overselling that, sister.
I know. After Joel finds out that he's been erased, he goes and he confronts, I guess in the Joel way, he confronts the doctor, Howard, who erased Clementine's memories. He goes to the office and he, like, you see this waiting room of people. And I guess, like, maybe you can explain this to me, but, like, Jim Carrey's character, Joel, like, goes there and he says he has a meeting with the doctor. And Kirsten Dunst, she's the receptionist at this office. So she greets him and is talking to him. He's got this meeting. And so when he goes in and he's talking to Dr. Howard says he wasn't supposed to find out about the procedure. Do you remember that?
He wasn't supposed to be told about Clementine's procedure. He was not supposed to be shown that paper that Rob and Carrie showed him.
Okay. So, doesn't that seem counterintuitive to you, though? This is a part of the movie, like, I mean, the movie's very trippy, but this is a part of a movie that just stuck with me. If someone has had their memories erased of you, and let's say that, like, again...
And
like,
you don't know, and you are trying to find them, and you...
Right.
Or you see them in the street, and you're like,
Right. So, like, shouldn't they be made aware?
There were a few little things in the movie that I'm just like, I am suspending my disbelief.
Right.
And I am moving forward.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, you have to. But, yeah, so I don't know. That just stuck with me as, like, you would think that you would want to notify that person. But instead of, like, just, because Clementine would have had to give Rob and Carrie's name and their address, like, because they were notified that this happened. So Joel is upset, and he, like... he leaves the office and he can't believe it happened, blah, blah, blah. But he's like, yeah, go ahead.
I feel like he is even kind of like, well, if you're going to erase me, I'm going to erase you.
Yeah, like spiteful.
Like just spiteful.
Yeah. Yep, that's the vibe I got.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, this is going to hurt me and I don't care.
Well, because if she's not having to deal with it, why should he have to, like, deal with it? So.
And to mourn her and know that she's not mourning him, not even... a brief memory of him.
And so you see him, like, you see the procedure of this memory erasure that's going to happen for Joel. So, like, they tell him he has to come in, he's got to bring all of these objects that are around him that remind Joel of Clementine. He has to bring them in. And then this initial, like, appointment that is, like, all these objects. And then Mark Ruffalo's character, Stan... Like, what a character. He's just hilarious. Like,
he's just such... I mean, I think you find out towards the end that he's actually a nice guy.
Yeah.
But...
he comes off as, like, a little bit of a buffoon,
Yeah, like, and unethical in several ways.
Yeah, which that's going to come up here real quick in a second. But, so, Stan is there with Joel's character. Joel's got this machine on his head, which it looks like a salon machine, like a blow dryer.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what it looks like.
But it's very intricate.
Yeah, it's supposed to be like, so it's almost like a mini, I think it's supposed to be like a mini MRI or mini like CT scan type machine where it's just on his head. He's obviously not in.
Right, and all they're wanting him to do is to remember all of the things about her, like how they met. And didn't they say they wanted more, instead of what they did, more of the emotion?
Right, because what they're doing is stand behind the computer with this machine is mapping these memories in his brain. You know, the memories are in the hippocampus, like that's where they are, but like where you're suspending your logic or whatever, like the brain, Joel's brain is like on this machine, and you see like the memories are like kind of scattered throughout his brain. And so, you know, for the sake of the story, like they're just creating a map. But that's something that you would see, you know, when in a functional MRI, what you see is, and I think that's why they were talking about the emotions and things like that, because they do studies of like how people respond emotionally, where we can see it on the brain to certain stimuli. And so the stimuli for Joel is all of these objects that have a memory tied to them of Clementine, and he's like seeing these spots light up on, you know, his brain. But I think that's the more emotional part, like so that they can target certain things. But
so yeah, and they're mapping it so they can later go in and zap all of those memories.
Yeah. Well, and that's what we see is like, we see the doctor kind of explain it to Joel.
When Joel went home and he had those black brand new pajamas, I was like, what is happening? Why did he buy new pajamas? Why did he...
Maybe that was what he was told to. We don't see like the whole kind of
I have a feeling that I thought for a minute that maybe that was something that Lacuna sent to patients to wear during the procedure. But I didn't know.
I didn't know. I don't remember, and I can't recall, like...
All I remember is him opening a package, and that's all I...
Maybe it was like a symbolic of starting fresh type of a thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So then then Stan and Patrick...
Well, Stan first, and then Patrick kind of shows up. But yeah. But in the middle of the night, after Joel has been asleep, because Joel takes these medications that he's been given, which I want to do a little segue into something else real quick after that. But yeah, he takes these pills, and he goes to sleep, and he's like out. And from the street, Stan is watching from his white van. So creepy.
It's all very, like, underworld type stuff.
Right. Well, and I think they must have a key to his place, because they get in. I'm sure that Joel had to provide that, because part of this whole procedure is Joel's not going to remember having his memory erased.
Right.
Because, you know, that's part of a memory of like going to them saying, I want Clementine out. That's got to be one of the memories that gets taken away. So Joel's out, and then Stan is bringing in all this equipment and things like that. So the segue I wanted to get into was, there's actually some studies that have been done, maybe even currently being done, about looking into actually erasing memories. There is a medication called propranolol, which is a beta blocker. And I don't know, I saw this kind of pop up recently. Did you see the interview that Ariana Grande did about...
No.
Okay. So she gave an interview at one of the recent like awards ceremonies or whatever on the red carpet about, she had an album that came out last year about Eternal Sunshine. Did you know that? Okay. Well, I guess it's inspiration.
It's her favorite movie. Yeah.
Oh, is it her? Okay. So either she got asked directly about the album, but then something came up about like taking a beta blocker, and apparently there's other people like in Hollywood that are taking beta blockers. Like, I don't know, they're talking about it, which is great. I mean, let's talk more about mental health, but it's coming up in these interviews, I think, on red carpets.
Well, what I remember, last year, well, whenever Oppenheimer was up for a bunch of awards, so maybe a couple years ago, and Robert Downey Jr. won the Golden Globe, and he got up to accept it, and he said something like he was just really, he goes, don't worry, I'm only on my beta blocker.
Yeah.
And so what does that do?
So beta blockers are used to treat anxiety. They're off-label, a lot of them. But specifically, the one that I looked into related to this movie was the medication propranolol. It's a beta blocker. Again, it gets used to treat POTS too. So, because what it helps to do is it helps to control heart rate. The other thing that propranolol does is it acts on the amygdala, which is another part of the brain, which is used to process emotional memories, and it helps to block or dull the, I guess, reactivation of those neurons that we talked about before. There was, at least back in 2009, I don't know if he's done anything recently, but there was a researcher, Merrill Kint of the University of Amsterdam, and he and some other colleagues looked at using propranolol in rats by exposing them to a traumatic memory, and then later administering them to the drug, and then again exposing them to that traumatic thing again. I know. It's very unsatisfactory, and...
I had a pet rat as a child.
Did you?
A white one named Houdini.
Oh.
Our 5th grade class fed one, like, sugar and the other one healthy food, and I got the sugared up rat and brought him home.
You probably saved him.
Probably.
Oh my God. Can't imagine.
He lived for 3 years, and I was highly allergic. I broke out into hives every time I held him, and my mom had to take care of him.
Poor Houdini.
So my mom's here with this albino rat, like...
Oh my gosh. Well, Houdini probably would have been a good candidate for this study. But anyway, they exposed these rats to the traumatic thing again, and they did not have as much of a reaction. Like the ones who had propranolol administered to them, their emotions were dulled.
Do they just disassociate, or...
I guess we would never know of a rat, but I don't know how you can tell a disassociating rat from another non-disassociating rat, but yeah, so...
Maybe that's a study you should start, Kenzie.
But yeah, there was, at least Merrill like his people were able to show that this beta blocker, propranolol in particular, I'm sure with the rest of the ones in the class, maybe... the class of medicine was maybe as helpful, but yeah, they found that it dulled these emotional responses to traumatic memories. Yes.
How, I mean, I understand brain chemistry would, probably light up or whatever to show that you have a traumatic memory, but does it just dull all your memories? Because how does it...
No, I mean,
that seems like such a blanket thing to give somebody.
No, I think it really just works on those emotional memories. So if you don't have an emotion tied to a specific memory, it's not going to be affecting you one way or another. Do you know what I'm saying?
No. Well, no, I'm just thinking, I've always just kind of assumed that memories that you have kept for decades, there's an emotional...
Well, maybe I think it would have to be ones that are associated with adrenaline, because that's one of the way that beta blockers work, is that adrenaline will spike the heart rate and spike blood pressure, and it's blocking those. And so I think it would have to have something that's associated with adrenaline. Mm.
So it's one of those things of you feel the fear, but you can manage to live through it anyway.
Right. And so it's not like a proper erasure. I think right. that is...
It's something that you can cope. It's a coping...
right. It helps you to cope better.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I think that's the state of the science now. But again, anyone who's listening wants to chime in and add if there's been anything more recently than that, which is what I read in 2009. But yeah, I mean, I think, I don't know, the brain is such a complex thing, and I think it's always going to be studied because, as we've talked about on a previous episode, like there's still so much we don't know about it. And I think memory erasure is something that there would be a market for it. You know that there would.
Oh, absolutely. But I'm not sure if you look at how ethical that is. Like, you can see where in the wrong hands, they will, let's say something traumatic happens to you with a family member. Mm-hmm. Well, they can just, depending on how much control they have over you.
Yeah.
They can just make sure you never remember the crime that they've
went like even darker than that. I went like, let's say that you're like being interrogated for something question and in the wrong hands, like some nefarious government. Let's not talk about our own government, but let's just talk about somewhere else.
Every other country is talking about our government.
I know, right? Nefarious government agents they can like erase the knowledge that you have.
Or, I mean, you would think that another offshoot would be they would then eventually be able to implant memories or ideas.
Yeah. Which is what Inception is all about, that movie, which is on the list of movies to watch. That's one of my top favorite movies of all time. I love that movie.
I've not watched that since I saw it in the theater.
I love that movie so much. It's one of the ones
I really liked it in the theater because it almost felt like you were in it.
Yep.
You should come over. We'll watch it on that.
Great. I love it. Let's do it. Okay, so let's just talk about the utter chaos and the lack of professionalism that happens for Joel's memory erasure procedure.
Every single person involved in that office is crazy as fuck. I don't understand.
I felt so bad for Jim Carrey's character Joel. Like, he just wanted his little memory erased.
And, in the whole movie, because it's going back and forth between memories with Clem and then the present day, and they're kind of getting mixed.
Right.
So, when Kirsten Dunst was dancing in her underwear on the bed, I'm like, she and Stan, Mary and Stan were smoking a doobie. And
And drinking.
And laying on either side of Joel
in the bed.
Bed with his little helmet on. It was just...
It's like, right, so it's like they're setting up the equipment, and then, so Stan sets up, and then Patrick shows up, right? Okay. Patrick also works for the office, so it's like, okay, no big deal. But then they're talking about drinking, and while they're going to do this procedure, which, how professional, right? Yeah. And then Patrick
is like, I've had some friends in my lifetime that it's like, oh, it's like if that group of friends decided to do medical procedures.
But I had thoughts during this scene. I was like, we're human beings. We're all human beings, right? And in healthcare, in the medical field, I'm sure that there's been procedures where somebody is like unconscious, that obscene and unethical things have happened like around them, like you hear, there's medical malpractices for all kinds of stuff, like especially if there's evidence to back up that these things happened while somebody was in the vulnerable state and like unconscious. But like that's essentially what's happening to Joel, because they're talking about drinking, and then like, nothing I don't think is being recorded while this is happening, but then Patrick, who's Elijah Wood's character, admits that like he has a girlfriend, and he met her, the girlfriend, because they were doing her memory erasure, and he stole her underwear. He's like admitting all of this.
Yeah,
like, no words are lost on you.
Just how unethical it was, and how devious Patrick was in manipulating Clementine.
Well, that's who we found out who it is. Because at that moment we don't know who it is.
That's why I didn't know what to say. I was like, can I say it's Clementine?
Mark Ruffalo's character doesn't know who it is either. He doesn't know that it's Clementine, but he's a little taken aback too, because he's like, Patrick, like, it was a patient, one, and two, you stole her underwear? Like, what? Yeah.
And he actually went through the things Joel brought in and the things Clementine brought in, so he could use those sweet personal moments that were between Joel and Clementine to woo Clementine.
Which is why she feels like she's going crazy, because while Patrick is with Stan at Joel's apartment, Clementine calls Patrick, and she's like out of it. She's like hysterical on the phone, and Patrick's trying to calm her down, which is basically, again, this is a problem you created, dude, because you looked into this person's life who trusted you with these memories, and you're using them against her, because she...
Not to mention, I think we kind of see that those memories are never completely gone. They kind of are an echo.
Right.
So Patrick is telling her things that Joel had said to her that he had found. And that's going to bring, if there's any echo of that memory.
Yeah.
You would feel crazy.
But, like, this is what I was going to ask you. So, like, we only see Joel's procedure, right? So we didn't see Clementine's or whatever. But we also know that Patrick, like, did some shady shit and, like, looked up the memories with the objects and the written statements,
even
whatever.
Stole The gift that...
And gave it to Clementine. Yeah, for Valentine's Day.
That Joel had bought for her.
Right. But I was going to ask your opinion of, in general, do you feel like this procedure that we're seeing on the screen with the movie, like, do you think it's like a faulty procedure? Like, there's like flaws inherent in this because the idea that memory is so entrenched, like specifically, you know, with Joel and Clementine, because these were like romantic partners, like, because you could have, like, for example, like a traumatic experience that gets erased from your memory rather than like a whole person, right? So do you think it's like a problem with the procedure, or do you think that like Clementine, because Patrick messes it up, or do you think like Joel's procedure gets so fucked up that there's no way that like it's going to be successful?
I remember when I was younger and I watched this, like I said, there was a lot of talking while I watched it, but I've always kind of thought that they were so connected and had experienced so many romantic encounters and just traumatic encounters even with how they treat each other. But it was that their bond was so, and maybe that's the more romantic.
Maybe.
20-year-old in me, but...
Because the thing is with Joel's procedure, I mean, like, it's utter chaos. It doesn't start off right from the very beginning because, so Patrick ends up leaving once Clementine calls him, right? But then, and it's not before, though, Kirsten Dunst shows up and is, like, there. And then, as you said before, they're, like, drinking, they end up smoking a joint, they end up having sex. Mm-hmm. Like, I can't remember in the scene. Is it in the bed with Joel, or is it like in the chair?
No, I think they're off in the corner in a chair.
Right. But Joel realizes, though, because either he realizes something is going on while he's unconscious. Like, his subconscious realizes that something is going on because in these memories he's having of Clementine, he's like hearing voices, right? Mm-hmm. And so I was like, if you hadn't seen the scene where they're setting him up to have this memory erasure and he was just going through his memories, you would think that he's hallucinating.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And just it makes me wonder, because you were talking about Clementine's compared to his. Mm-hmm. This does not seem like a sound medical team.
No.
So I am wondering if every procedure is fucked up like that.
Probably.
And therefore,
It seems like business as usual when Patrick comes over and stands there, and then Kirsten Dunst is coming over there, just like,
it's like, oh my God. What else are we going to do? Just
the Three Stooges for a second, and then it's just the Two Stooges.
And so, because Stan was having sex with Mary and not paying attention, suddenly Jim Carrey is off the map.
Yeah,
he in his unconscious state, he is thinking, I don't want to erase these memories.
Right, because I wonder if
like he had that memory about being on the ice.
Yeah. And
it being the best day, and if he died, he would die happy right there with her.
Right.
And I think that, yes, it's shitty when you break up with someone and you're lonely, and I mean, I understand there are relationships that are so traumatic, you're just like, no.
Right.
But in Joel and Clementine's case, it's like, well, why wouldn't you? Yeah, it's going to hurt and sting for a long time. Mm-hmm. But wouldn't you want to also have those good memories, the fun?
Well,
the love, the feeling cared for and appreciated?
Well, and that's the thing, though, too, right, is because at the beginning of the procedure, they're going through, like, the more recent memories, right? They start at the more recent and go to, like, the...
And the most recent are just them fighting.
Exactly. They're the negative ones.
Yeah.
But he's forced to recall, as part of their procedure and the computer program or whatever, he's forced to recall the good ones, too, because they have to get erased. Mm-hmm. And that's when he's, like, realizing, no, like, there are good ones. Like, if I have to have the bad ones erased and the good ones, like, I want to... He's like, I'll keep both, essentially. He's like, I want to stop this. So he tries to beat the system. He tries to beat the computer.
In his memories, he's grabbing on to Clem and saying, let's hide. We have to... Well, she came up with that idea. Well, we have to hide somewhere.
The Clem in his subconscious, right? Yeah.
And she's like... and he says, I have to hide my humiliation.
Yeah.
When he says that, I'm like, what is your humiliation?
Oh my God, yeah.
Because then it shows him as a child, a 4-year-old.
No, what's the scene before that? Do you remember? As a teenager, he's masturbating in his bedroom, and his mom walks in on him.
After all of those.
No, that was first.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
that was it, and he was like, I'm so ashamed. And then it was, and then it's the 4-year-old where he's...
That was weird.
Yeah.
I do remember when that movie came out, Kate Winslet did an interview. I don't know why it stuck with me. Mm-hmm. But that scene that they were filming, I wonder if MTV had a behind the scenes I watched.
Probably. That was the height of it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That when they were in the sink, they were actually filmed in a tub.
Yeah.
She was 4 months pregnant and passed out.
Oh, I didn't know that.
When they were in the water because it was so hot.
Well, yeah, I mean, like, and she could have miscarried. Like, because you're not supposed to get in a hot tub when you're pregnant. I mean, I had to avoid hot tubs when I was pregnant, which was, let me tell you, it would have felt great with my pregnant body, but, like, could not. So, yeah, I didn't know that. Fun fact, behind the scenes.
So many fun facts.
But yeah, that scene, like, I was wondering if it was just the dramatic effects of, like, the story, or, like, if there was a traumatic memory for Jim Carrey, like, was he drowning as a baby in the tub?
All of that just seemed to me surrealism. Like,
oh, okay.
You know how when you dream, that's how to me it's mixed up. There are memories and then there's like dream sequences.
Yeah.
But also they're starting to erase things with Clem. Mm-hmm. So it's just kind of chaotic. Like you don't know what's happening. However, I thought when he was little and he was with the boys out in out in the park. Mm-hmm. And she was there in her little cowgirl outfit. Mm-hmm. I was like, it's kind of sweet that she's there in his childhood memories.
Right, as he's beating a bird to death.
I think it was already dead.
Well, yeah, so they wanted him to smash it up or whatever. Like, he was peer pressured into...
Boys are weird.
That's sociopath behavior, psychopath.
Yeah, boy behavior.
One and the same. They're just all little psychopaths. When I was
little, I never understood the things my cousin, who was 4 years older, what he and his best friend did. I was always like, boys are so weird. Mm-hmm. Like, why is that fun?
Yeah. It goes beyond just curiosity, right? I mean, like, at least the bird was dead, but it's, like, strange. No, but what was even stranger, though, is they go back to his childhood home, and then she's holding a pillow. Oh, no, or he's holding the pillow over her.
Yeah, and he's like, we're just playing.
Right, but then...
And then you flick to the memory of her holding it over him when they were dating.
Yeah, but why would they be doing that?
And then she's like, my turn.
Was it supposed to be like that, asphyxia, like, erotica?
Autoerotic.
Yeah.
Asphyxiation.
I
took it, and maybe I took it too literally.
Right.
They're not really trying to kill each other, but they're trying to erase each other. Mm-hmm. And maybe that's just an outward symbol of what they're doing.
Maybe.
That they are technically killing that person.
Yeah, because was it like a true memory or not? Like,
I have no idea.
I don't know if it was a true memory or if it was Joel's attempt to, like, create a new memory, like, get it...
Someplace they could hide.
Yeah, I don't know. That was a weird part of the movie.
Yeah. There are a lot of parts of the movie where I'm like, I'm just going to go with it.
Yeah. Where is this going to take us? Where does it go?
I mean, and normally, mm-hmm. I have a creative imagination, mm-hmm. and I can...
You certainly do, man.
I can suspend my disbelief for years. So...
I'm disassociating for years.
Yeah. Sounds good to me.
But Jim Carrey, Joel, he wakes up a couple of times in the movie, and it was like Clementine's suggestion, like, try and wake yourself up. And then he's, like, joking around in his, like, memory that he's trying to, like, preserve of her. Like, he, like, opens up his eyes. He's like, see, this isn't going to work. And then suddenly he's awake. He's like, oh, yeah, that did work. And then, like, I don't know, a few, like, memories later or whatever, like, he wakes up, and then Dr. Howard, the doctor, has to give him more of whatever medication they're giving, the sedative, mm-hmm. to, like, knock him back out.
Which just goes to the part of the story where Stan could not get back into the map, into his brain. Mm-hmm. So they had to call Howard, which Mary was very excited to call Howard.
I know, but Stan was, like, so flabbergasted, like that. He was just like, "Oh no, I'm gonna have to call the doctor." Like that whole scene where he was like,
I mean, that was a man who had just fucked up big time.
And he needed his boss to fix it.
And he needed his boss to fix it, but he's like,
But it's the middle of the night.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So then when Howard gets there and Mary is just doing nothing but complimenting him.
Mm-hmm.
And he's a good, 35, 40 years older?
Mm-hmm.
And Stan just gets up and is like, well, I guess I'll go get some air. And leaves, and then she goes over and kisses Howard.
Yeah. And then his wife, Howard's wife, shows up.
Yep. And Stan honks the horn because through the front window,
you can see them.
You can see Mary and Howard, the doctor, making out. And I think she's down to her underwear again. I mean, this is just a thing.
Well, because when Stan is like noticing, obviously in the scene of like something's going on, right? Mary's like you said, being overly complimentary and like making it awkward, and he has to peace out. Like, as soon as he leaves, Mary lays one out on the doctor and then is immediately embarrassed and is like, I'm so sorry, I've had a crush on you. And then, again, cut to them making out and Howard's wife seeing through the window. And then, with Stan honking the horn and Howard comes out. And then in the street, there's the confrontation.
Yeah, and Mary comes up and says, please, it's my fault. He didn't start this. I started it. Mm-hmm. We didn't do anything. And the wife looks at Howard and says, oh, are you going to tell her? You already did. Mm-hmm. And at that point, I'm like, what does that mean?
Right.
What is happening? Mm-hmm. So we find out that Howard had already erased Mary's memories of him because they had already had an affair. Mm-hmm. And he tells her that she wanted it. She wanted to have the memories erased.
Right. To get over it.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that gets into that whole thing of like consenting to have this done versus it being done upon you.
Manipulation of these women. You have Patrick manipulating his relationship with Clem. You have Howard manipulating his relationship with Mary. Because
doesn't that go against the whole tenets of his business of like, if he erases her memories and then she's
still working as his receptionist.
Right. This wouldn't have come up.
But also I think it shows the audience
a successful procedure.
But it wasn't successful.
Oh no. Well, again, this goes to my theme of like, well, right. So the thing was, Mary had Howard erased because she was in love with him and he was married and it could not go anywhere, right? So like, is love so deep of an emotion, so deep that you cannot, like you were saying, cannot fully erase it?
And I would argue that it's not even just love, that there are some things that affect you that no matter how hard you try, you can't get rid of it, but you have to learn how to
you have to
live with it.
Yeah.
So, but what really bothered me about Mary is that she goes back to the office and listens to her own session tape of her memories. And in it, she says to Howard, no, stop, I don't want to do this.
Oh, I missed that part.
And he said, it has to be done.
Oh.
And I'm like, so yeah, she didn't want to do it, but that was his only way of keeping her around.
Right.
Instead of just saying, you're going to have to go work somewhere else.
Well, and then...
Or whatever.
And Mary confronts Stan, like, did you know? Because Stan would have had to be the technician to do it, right?
But I'm wondering what the timeline is, because Stan is like, I thought maybe you guys were together. I saw you talking, and you looked really, like, familiar with each other.
Yeah.
And he said, but then I didn't see anything like that again, So it would make sense that Howard would keep that a secret from staff and do the procedure himself.
I was going to say, Stan, I believe Stan when he said he didn't do the procedure and that Howard must have done it.
And I just loved that at the end Stan says to Mary, I really do like you.
Yeah.
And I don't know, it was just...
Well, and...
So not only did that mess up Mary, like in the Howard realm, but it messed up any possible healthy relationship with Stan, because I think you would always wonder if they knew. Even though I don't think he did.
I don't think he did either. I don't think he knew that she'd had a procedure done.
No.
Like I think, like you're saying, he kind of maybe knew that there had been something that went on, even though he wasn't quite sure what it was.
But she said to Stan, how was I before?
Oh, yeah.
And he said, you were just happy. Mm-hmm. And she goes, and after? And he doesn't say anything.
not as happy or something like that.
I don't know.
I think he said, I've never just seen you as happy as that before or again. Yeah. But, what got me was when we're watching that scene, because Mary is carrying out her stuff and has probably got her file in there. You see in her trunk all of these other boxes of documents. And I was like, I'm like, what is she doing with all those?
Yeah. At first I'm thinking, God, she has a lot of files on herself.
I know.
And then it's like, oh no, these are everybody's.
Right.
So then back to...
Well, it's back to like Joel and Clementine.
Right. So his memory has been...
Erased, I guess. And he wakes up. You see him waking up.
Well, you see their last moments together, he and his subconscious Kate. Mm-hmm. And they're in that house on the beach. Mm-hmm. And it's slowly disintegrating. And at the end, all of his memories being wiped out. And she whispers in his ear as they're fading, meet me in Montauk.
Which is because that's where they met originally.
Mm-hmm. At a beach party.
Right.
So, that Robin Carrey through. Mm-hmm. And then you realize what everything that happened before the credits, at the beginning, what that meant. When he got up that morning and all of a sudden on the train platform, and he's all of a sudden just like, I have to go to Montauk.
Mm-hmm. And it's Valentine's Day.
Yeah.
Yeah. And we realize it's the Valentine's Day that we knew of, like at the beginning when he meets her, quote unquote. Yeah.
So, and she had done the same thing with Patrick. She said to Patrick, I have to go to Montauk.
Right. And she thought she was going crazy. She's like, I just have to go.
And so they meet up. And then once again, she's going to go, she's going to go spend the night. And she has waiting for her in her mailbox in her house. Right. The envelope from Mary with the tape. And they listen. I thought that was crazy that they listened to it together in the car. I'm like, no, don't share.
Well, they didn't
Technically, you've just met. You don't need to, let him read your mail.
But neither one of them knew what was going on. Yeah.
But when it started, and Joel thought that she was somehow...
Pranking him.
Yeah. Pranking him, manipulating him. Mm-hmm. And so that would be scary, but then he goes home and he has it.
Right.
Also has it.
Because this is someone you're under the auspices of, this is someone I've just met.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the fact, it just killed me that his tape about things he said about Clementine plays and continues to play the whole time she's in the house. Mm-hmm. So you can just hear him saying all this shit about her.
The majority of it is like crap he's saying. Yeah. But he does say that she's like exciting and
But then he goes into she fucks you to get close to you.
He jaded lover shit, right?
Yeah. It's all bullshit. That's what you say when it's over and you've been hurt. Yeah. And you're trying to hate the other person.
Oh, you know what we forgot to say before we get to this part, but I just wanted to bring it up, is that Joel, Jim Carrey's character, has caught on about Patrick, probably from overhearing while he's like somewhat under, and then also his brain has figured out that like he, like you were saying, manipulated Clementine and is like pretending to be him, stole memories and to like reenact with her. The scene comes up again where Patrick knocks on the window of Jim Carrey's car as he's waiting for Clementine before she gets in, and he's like, what are you... That's Elijah Wood's character's like, what are you doing here?
So then it makes sense. Mm-hmm. Because it comes full circle. You first watch it, you're like, wait, Elijah, you've been everywhere. Yeah. What are you doing? Then I got it. And we were fine. Crisis averted. But
after Jim Carrey kicks Clementine out of his car when they're listening at tape, and then Clementine comes to his apartment, and he's there listening to the tape of his interview about why he wants to get the procedure done, and then she leaves, right? Because I think she's like hurt enough. She's like, I have to go. He confronts her in the hallway, gets her to stop leaving, and is essentially saying like, I'm sorry for the things I've said. I don't know what's going on. I mean, they're both utterly confused, right? Like, right. And then they both kind of agree that like, even though they've just met, right? Like they don't really know each other because their memories have been erased. They're willing to do it all over again. Yeah. Yeah.
And it was just kind of like Kate Winslet says to him when she's in his apartment about the thing about how she just fucks people to get close to them. That she's like, that's not me. I'm not that girl. And he's like, listen, I know you're not. Mm-hmm. So even not the second time around, not really knowing her, he knows. He can sense what kind of person she is.
Yeah.
And which is a good person, someone he wants to hang out with. So,
right. That makes his life exciting. Yeah. As he said.
So they decide to just kind of, I mean, really, it's kind of a slight case study on forgiveness. Mm-hmm. Because you've heard every single shitty thing he has said about you.
Yeah. And he heard, yeah.
He heard what she said in the car. And they're like, let's just move on. Mm-hmm. Let's start over. It's the ultimate starting over story. Mm-hmm. Without the baggage. Well, they do have the baggage, though, because they heard it.
Right. So here's like a little fun fact. It's a little trivia piece, I guess. So I rewatched this movie on Amazon Prime. That was just more convenient for me to do.
Same.
But, I know. But anyway, toward the end, there's a trivia piece. Like if you do the X-ray feature of Amazon Prime where it gives you like the cast and the music and things like that, there's a trivia piece that said that there was an alternate ending to this movie.
Really?
So the alternate ending, according to Amazon Prime, I have nothing to back it up other than what I read, but it said that there's a scene in which you know that Clementine has actually had Joel erased from her memory several times.
Oh, so they keep coming back together.
Right. Well, it's not the same for Joel. So I don't know what, again, I'd have to pull it back up. You know what?
I kind of miss DVDs because they would always have that extra section, and you could watch scenes that had been deleted.
Listen, I'm just, for the sake of the pod, I'm gonna bring up what it says at the end of the movie for the trivia, because I'm gonna read it, because it doesn't seem like Joel has had his memory erased as many times as she has. The original script featured a cut beginning and ending sequence that took place in the future. In the end, an older Clementine comes in to have the procedure done, and a look at her screen shows that she's had the procedure done multiple times, and all of them have involved Joel. At the end of the script, an older Joel calls Clementine to ask why she hasn't called, but the technicians performing the procedure erase his message. Other cuts in the original script include a montage of memories people wanted erased, probably not, I'm assuming not, Clementine and Joel, that includes a soldier seeing his dead friend on the battlefield, a girl who was SA'd at a young age, and then there was another subplot that was dropped from the script that Mary had found out that Howard had made her get an abortion after they had an affair, resulting in her desire to have her memory erased. So that would have been an alternate part of their subplot. Yeah. So that, this is per
But I
Amazon.
mean, that's totally reasonable
that
you would think that someone, would do that. I think they need, another movie set in that world.
Oh, yeah.
Where we learn about Mary and Howard. I would love to know that story.
Yeah. You could do multiple movies with this procedure and seeing, what are the lives of these people that come to want to have this done, and then what's the outcome, right? Because we do know that utter buffoons that are doing the procedure. So
I would also love to know what credentials these people have.
What clown college they went to?
Yeah, I mean, I'm guessing Howard would have been some sort of psychiatric researcher or something.
Yeah. Is there anything else you want to say about the movie?
Well, I guess we need to rate it.
Okay. You go first.
What are the ratings again?
Every time. So you loved it, you liked it, you're neutral. That would be like a 50-50 split. Then didn't hate it or hated it.
I think I'm neutral. I mean, it was good, but it's not a movie I would pull out and think, oh man, I have some time to watch an old favorite.
Right.
This would not be in that list.
No. I would say I loved this movie.
Really?
Mm-hmm. I liked it the first time I watched it. And then rewatching it, I just was like, oh my God, I love this movie. The art direction, obviously the script, it won an award for it. I think Jim Carrey really does not get enough credit, I think, for his dramatic roles. I mean, he's known more for his comedy, and he's a great comedian. I love me some Ace Ventura. I love me some... no, seriously, I do.
I was just going to say Ace Ventura because I remember watching that over and over in high school.
I can't, yes.
Every party, It was on in the background.
I've watched that movie so many times. It's one of my dad's favorites, so we've watched it a lot. But he is a great, and Dumb and Dumber is another one. Like I've seen that movie a bunch of times. But I mean, he's known for those roles. I think maybe more so for his dramatic portrayals. But like, I don't know. I think he killed it in this movie. I think Kate Winslet killed it. I liked the chaos that was like the subplot of like everything going on around Joel while he's unconscious. Like I loved it. So I loved this movie. I would watch it again. All right. You ready?
I'm ready.
Okay. I'm going to go get the jar of hopes and dreams and nightmares. Yep. Shake it, shake it, shake it, shake it.
Ooh, that was a good pop.
That was a good sound bite. I shook it. Yeah, you might want to swivel it around a little bit because
I'm loving that noise.
Make sure you just pull out one. So the next movie will be
Mommy Dearest.
Ooh.
I'm so excited.
I've never seen this one. So
what?
No, I've never seen it. I've obviously you've heard of this movie. Like,
oh yeah, you know the lines and
yeah,
it's just kind of in the zeitgeist.
I've seen sites. I've seen scenes because it's talked about in pop culture. I mean, this movie's talked about it because it's based on true things. So it's talked about, but I've never seen it for sure.
This ain't my first time at the rodeo.
Well, I'm going to be coming in with fresh eyes, fresh perspective.
I love that movie so much. And, I mean, there's a lot of child abuse in it. But
Carrie, now I'm starting to be concerned.
I don't have children, so let's not worry. I have a husband. That's good. It's like, Mommy Dearest is one of them that I'm like, oh, I would like to watch it with you.
Well, maybe we can arrange that. We'd have to figure it out, but we could do that maybe.
And we can show content as long as it's transformative. Mm-hmm. Like, as long as we are talking about it and commenting and...
Yeah, and not like just...
Not just showing the
out.
Movie.
Yeah, but I also...
No Mystery Science Theater 3000
But
here.
I also think it's limited to the amount that you show too.
You can only show so much.
Yeah, isn't it like 30 seconds at a time or something like that? You can't... this is something we have to research, but yeah.
And I don't know why we're talking about it on the podcast, but here we are.
Carrie, this is how our creative process right here. We're going to, right in front of everybody to listen. If you wondered if we knew what we were doing, the answer to that is...
No.
We're learning as we go.
So, Kenzie, I guess we'll see everybody next week.
Thank you for listening.
Yes, we so appreciate it. We know that we can be crazy sometimes.
We do. And
in a good way. That was not a pejorative.
The only way that you can be. But yeah, please feel free to suggest movies. So on one of our socials, we did a video and there was a suggestion on TikTok of a movie by a viewer that said Benny and June. And luckily that's already on our list to be done.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, feel free to still keep commenting because we think of things like, for example...
We are still thinking of movies.
Well, because we just talked about Inception and I know that that's not on our list. So we definitely have to add that. But anyway.
Well, I guess we should say goodbye.
So long.
Farewell.
We'll see you next time.
That's the plan.